Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ult In Ten, and today with me I have someone who has, let's see, 4 or 5 Smurfs that are actually above 2K ELO, and it is a Doublelift from COG. Why don't you introduce yourself and say hi?
Yeah, I'm Doublelift. Currently play on CLG as AD carry. And the reason I have so many Smurfs is basically my main account, Doublelift, gets so like it gets high elo, and then queue times start becoming like retarded, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and I lose stream viewers and I get really bored and impatient, so I just end up making new Smurfs to get lower queue times.
It's a good point. I know Scar is definitely having really hard annoying or bad annoyance with queue times.
Yeah.
And in this game, you're dual queued with Sinister, who's playing nearly top, and you're playing Vayne. And I want to point out that over these like past couple of months, you've become really known for Vayne. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, I end up getting kind of lucky when I play Vayne in competitive play. Like she's really good at making plays, and because she's kind of like an AD carry assassin hybrid with her stealth and like situational CC. She's really good at making plays. She has lots of damage. So when it comes down to like really clutch situations, Vayne's really good for doing that. And for some reason, every time I do it, somebody has it recorded. So when I do it on other champions, like nobody has it recorded. I don't understand. It's really weird.
I see you're here being really aggressive bottom, and I kind of want to go towards picks here. You were actually second pick. Do you typically, pick Vayne, or do you typically try to counter pick ADs at bottom at all?
Okay. This specific game, I'm pretty sure what happened was I saw the enemy team. This was on the patch where Sivir was like massively overpowered, and they first picked Sivir. So I was Sivir's a skill shot based champion, and basically every AD that skill shots well, or that is based on a skill shots. Sivir specifically, Vayne does really well against because Tumble is low cooldown, and you can just dodge boomerang blades. And you see how I just got that kill was I dodged both boomerang blades and ended up taking very little damage from Sivir.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out is that I've noticed that you always level Tumble like as your first ability to max, and it's kind of weird because I always see people leveling Silver Bolts for that lane damage. Is that just strictly for dodging skill shots as well as doing a nice amount of harass?
Ooh, okay. Well, the thing about maxing Tumble is it's more consistent. So like Silver Bullets is like every 3 hits you're gonna hit really, really, really hard, and yeah, the same kind of goes for Condemn, where like every time you use Condemn and it knocks them into a wall, you'll hit really, really, really hard. But I kind of like the consistency of Tumble. It's also like easy to use a lot, so I don't even know how to like its mobility. You can use it for last hitting. You just use Tumble more than you use Silver Bolts and your E. So I would just like in my mind, it just makes more sense to max Tumble first.
Would you say you actually build your items around that? I believe in this game you go Bloodthirster, Phantom Dancer, and typically with people who max Silver Bolts, they kind of try to build straight attack speed to maximize damage.
Yeah. The thing is, Tumble is your AD multiplier. It's one of the reasons Vayne is so good. Is she has like a steroid into her Q, which is really strong steroid. It's like 50-60% extra damage every couple seconds. You're gonna have like basically almost a crit guaranteed. So yeah, building damage like 100 damage on a Bloodthirster if you tumble will end up being basically 160 damage when you max your tumble out.
And what type of runes are you actually using for this one? I know there's been a huge kind of switch between armor pen and attack damage, where people are starting to rune just straight attack damage reds and quints instead of any armor pen. Um, well, specifically for Vayne and specifically for this game, as have enemy team having a Taric, how would you rune for it?
Yeah, I have a standard AD rune page and this is what I use. Mostly, I mean, I switch runes a lot uh, when I'm on my main because I have so many. But this is my Smurf, so all I have is 15 AD, and that's what I ran. It's the big reason you saw the switch is bottom lane turned from uh, like it was a lot of like really super aggressive lanes. So you saw like Caitlyn Tarek, you saw like Trist Alistar was really popular as well, and then it switched from that to kind of like farm lanes where you go aggressive when you can, and most of the time it's just a farm war. You know, like you see the CS. And AD is not necessarily better for doing damage, but it's much better for getting last hits, and that's what bottom lane turned into is a farm war.
Yeah, it definitely that farming that ease of farming definitely carries over into late game. And you're talking about how there was we were talking about this before the actual interview, how there was kind of a change where Caitlyn Tarek used to be like the dominating force bottom lane in the beginning of season 2, and it kind of changed. Like, how do you feel about that? I know you're kind of confused a little bit or annoyed by it.
Yeah, Caitlyn's definitely my favorite AD to play. She's just fun. I like how she's made, and it really frustrated me, I guess, or mostly, yeah, you're right. It just confused me when the community went from Caitlyn's really, really good, Caitlyn's amazing, to uh, Caitlyn sucks. Let's never pick her. Like you hardly see her in competitive play, and it's even in solo queue. It's so weird how a champion can go from that, with no nerfs. There have been no Caitlyn nerfs, and it's just the community perceives whatever they see on Hyla streams, and for some reason, people stop playing Caitlyn Tarek, and then people just stop playing Caitlyn altogether, and that's I think I'm one of the only players in the pro scene. For some reason, I'm not like trying to brag and say I'm like a hipster or anything, but like I don't understand why nobody plays Caitlyn. She's extremely good, uh, for a billion reasons. But anyways, yeah.
Well, referring to Caitlyn being like your favorite AD champion, what about other AD characters like Ashe, who really hasn't had too much tweaking, even though she was buffed a little bit, quote unquote, but she still doesn't have that escape mechanism.
Okay. Yeah, Ashe is actually really good. I don't. She's the biggest thing is she's really hard to play, and you have to play her different. Every AD you have to play different, but like, kind of like compare like Tristana to Caitlyn. They're both like high ranged, pretty high mobility champions. That you play them similar, but Ashe, you basically play her how what Chauster told me is a hyper carry, and you can't get hit. You basically just play so far back and so scared that you don't get hit ever because she doesn't have an escape. But the thing is she's got such great utility with her slow. Ashe is just Ashe is just really, really good. She's just so hard to play that nobody really got into it, I guess. Nobody got into the groove of picking up Ashe, learning how to play her.
Well, in terms of Ashe, like, is she mostly meant for certain team comps, or do you think she's viable in any kind of situation?
Well, I mean, just like every AD you pick based on your team comp, but she brings so much more to the team. Like, if you, like, there's really no team comp, I would say, where, Ashe sucks here. Oh, I guess when you have so ridiculous hard engage, like, no, even then, I can't think of a single team comp where like, well, Ashe sucks because she's good at kiting, she's great at hard engaging. You just have to play. You have to play to the situation. If you don't have an escape, you have to play your AD carry like you don't have an escape, and you just kind of have to adapt to the situation.
And that actually kind of goes into a question we received from the community. It's from Synaptic from the League of Legends forums. Yes, how important is mobility on AD carries to you?
It's really important. This is why I guess I play Vayne a lot, is because there's very few situations where Vayne just sucks because she has such high mobility, and that's really is the reason why she's so good. Is like you compare Vayne to, let's say, like Corki. Corki has pretty good mobility. He has Valkyrie. That's it. That's it. That's just one little thing that, or I guess it's pretty big, that repositions him during a team fight. Vayne just is always moving, always repositioning, and so it's really important to have that. It's extremely important.
Okay,
Uh,
and oh, okay, continue.
I don't know. I was just going to say, I'm so distracted by watching this game. Like Vayne, like the going on with the mobility thing. Mobility turns into damage on AD carries, so if Corki has to Valkyrie away from the team fight, he stops DPSing. That's it. He stops DPSing for like a couple seconds because he has to move back in, see when it's safe. Vayne is pretty much always damaging during a team fight because her mobility is so strong that she can just reposition every couple seconds, and she's never in a bad situation where she can't DPS. So this is also goes with what you're saying about Ashe, which is she has no mobility, and that's her biggest problem. She's probably DPSing half of a team fight, um, because she has to play so safe and so far back that she can't always be DPSing.
Right, right. I actually kind of want to change the subject a little bit and go towards your summoners. You're actually using Flash Cleanse, and we've seen lately a lot of AD carries starting to run Flash Heal. Is Flash Cleanse kind of something you're running just on Vayne particularly for this comp because they have a Taric and Cassiopeia, or is it just kind of you feel safe running that cleanse?
Yeah, I feel safe. I've been recently, me and my team had an argument about how much I should be running cleanse, and I've been running it every single game, which is wrong, but it is very safe. So heal is good in certain situations. You know, if you're taking lots of damage, I guess. But my mentality on AD carry is the only time you're going to be taking lots of damage is when you're crowd controlled. That's it. Like that's if I'm in a position where the enemy team can hit me, I either played really bad or I got crowd controlled. Like somebody Tarek flash stunned me, and I can get 100 to 0'd in a 1 second stun if that happens. So my mentality is I just needed to shrug off the stun with cleanse, and that's much better than having heal.
Right, right. And I kind of want to focus a little bit on like a team mentality of this because I know solo queue, cleanse, you kind of have to depend on yourself to protect yourself. But in a team kind of sense, like how do you and Chouster deal bottom lane? Like, how do you guys kind of meld together and kind of work off each other's play style?
Okay, so one of the misconceptions people have is AD carry is the importance of bottom lane. Like the bread and butter of bottom lane is AD carry. I tell Chauster when to go in, and I tell Chauster what to do. It's the exact opposite, or at least it should be the exact opposite. So like one of the things is Chauster will tell me when to go in. Chauster will tell me what to do, and that's just how it is. That's how it should be. And we work together. Basically, he's the one who adapts to the situation, and I follow his lead all the time. I'm just only following his lead, and that's how we operate. And I feel like that's how every bottom lane should operate. Is you got to be on the same page, and humans just you can't always be on the same page. So you got to follow somebody's lead. Somebody's got to be the leader, and then the other person reacts, and the support should be the one to do that.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely that kind of connection you have or that kind of like flow you have with your support definitely kind of I guess is really noticeable in higher play where you really need that good uh, communication. Sorry,
Yeah.
kind of lost the word there. I kind of want to ask one more question here real quick because we saw recently M5. I think that was or at the whole time Kiev was happening, where we saw really popular Wriggles and Phantom Dancer build. How do you? Well, this is a question towards or from I believe Reddit. How do you know when to go Bloodthirster versus Wriggles?
Okay, I've always been an advocate against Wriggles. I feel like Wriggles, your job on AD carry is not to like be tanky and have utility with this ward and this armor that you got. It's your job as an AD carry is to do damage and to scale well into late game. You are your team's late game as the AD carry. That's just how it is. So Wriggles kind of delays your late game, and it really is only good in a lane. In the lane, like no good player will tell you, yeah, I build Wriggles so I can team fight better. That's never the case. So I feel like a good player should be able to lane no matter what. And if your opponent gets Wriggles, you're gonna have a hard time in lane. But then you get into a team fight, and the enemy has 23 damage from Wriggles. You have 100 damage from BT. Who's gonna be doing more damage? Obviously, the person who built BT. So I've always been against it, but I can see how in certain situations you have to build Wriggles. That's just how it is. You have to.
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to follow up on. Is like, how do you kind of come back from falling behind in lane? Like, say you get first blooded, or you get set, like 20, 30 CS behind, or a couple levels behind. Do you typically try to build a Wriggles, to kind of get back in the game, or do you still try to go for that Bloodthirster?
Okay, well that's really situational. One of the things you have to take into consideration is if you're behind in lane, do you really want to fall that much more behind? So like, let's say you're really far behind, and the enemy has like almost an infinity edge, and then you just have like a Wriggles and a Zeal or something. He's gonna be doing way more damage now, but instead you take shortcuts. So one of the shortcuts that I would take if I was falling behind in lane is I wouldn't build Wriggles unless I really had to, and I would skip my Doran's Blades, or I would skip my Vamp Scepter, and I'd still do almost as much damage. I'd have my Infinity Edge like almost as fast as them, or my BT almost as fast, but I would lack like a couple hundred HP or lifesteal or something like that. So I think there's almost always an alternative to building Wriggles, but I can see why sometimes you're getting crapped on. This Sivir is not doing very well in lane. Like, so if I was her, I would consider buying Wriggles. I would.
Okay, actually, you mentioned Vamp Scepter and like Dorn's Ring and lane, and I kind of want to ask about runes with. Have you tried any lifesteal quints at all? Like, have you experimented with that or anything?
Yeah, okay. That's also one of the things that you can do if you're afraid of losing lane is definitely 100% get lifesteal Quince. So Ashe, perfect example. She has a god awful laning phase. So yeah, getting lifesteal Quince is really good. It's mostly you should try to use it when you have Janna or any non-sustain AD or non-sustain support, I should say, because you're not going to be getting any heals early game, and I counted up basically how much damage you're going to be doing just auto attacking, and it's a lot. Every time you auto attack with lifesteal Quince, you're going to be getting like 8 health, 9 health. That's really big. It adds up over your the whole laning phase. It's really important.
Okay, and we're kind of in the mid game, late game kind of phase. You guys are both grouping up, and it looks like you both are trying to kind of contest Baron a little bit. Well, let's just talk about what's your goals in this, mid to late game kind of time frame.
Around this time is I gotta start thinking about where I'm positioning in team fights and what I'm supposed to be doing. So I just look at both teams and I see we have a lot of AoE CC, and then the enemy team also has a lot of they have a lot of rush down, and I can't be near Morgana. Morgana's gonna be jumping in, pressing R. Skarner's gonna be jumping in. Nidalee's gonna be jumping in. I have to stay back, and basically the only thing stopping me from rushing down Cassiopeia and Sivir and Twitch is Lee Sin. So I got my eyes on Lee Sin. I gotta really look at what he's building, what he's doing, if his exhaust is up, and I just have to play these team fights out really well. That's what's going through my head, because the farming's done. Now it's going down to these team fights where Lee Sin is extremely good against Vayne. By the way, he's got the 2 stealth detections, and he's got an attack speed slow. So I just have to be careful when I team fight.
Yeah, I actually kind of want to. This is a community question from Pyson from Reddit. He's actually asked, "What's the hardest thing about playing AD carry competitively?" And I kind of actually want to ask and take that question a step further. Like, what's the hardest thing about playing AD carry competitively in team fights?
Ooh, the hardest thing is it's definitely positioning. I don't think to just like a normal spectator they understand what goes into my positioning. There has to be somebody between me and Lee Sin, or else he's gonna land a Q, or I can be out in the open and bait his Q and tumble it. And just there's a lot of things. It's mostly positioning. I have to be safe. If I die, my team loses. And see right here, I go really balls deep, and that was wrong. I played this team fight out really bad. I could have died. So that was. Ugh. Oh really? Wow.
Um, actually, kind of. We were talking between the last segment and this segment about if COG's experimenting with AP bottom at all, and if that happens, typically what do you end up having to play? Can you just kind of recap that a little bit?
Oh yeah. AP bottoms. Yeah. Okay. So the recent Soraka changes basically made it so APs can't run Soraka can run which is not that big of a problem. Um, so you can run a lot of these kind of mana hungry champions. Karthus, Cassiopeia, they're really mana hungry, but at the same time, they're also really good at playing how bottom lane's supposed to play. They farm well, they push, and mostly is there's no AD who can stand up to Cassiopeia's damage. If she lands her Q and then spams E, there's nobody. You can't fight that. So Cassiopeia is definitely a viable bottom lane. We were trying in a scrim recently, Soraka Zillion bottom. I didn't really like it, but the mentality was Zillion can spam bombs and you can't retaliate. The range on bombs is so long, just like the range on the range on Cassiopeia's Q is so long that you can't fight back, and that's really important. It's like if Caitlyn had started the game off with 1,000 range and you could just hit them and they couldn't hit you back. That's devastating, especially when there's no resource involved. When you can just spam Cassiopeia's Q or Zillion's bombs and you can't be punished for it, that can change the game. That can change how bottom lane's played. And I don't know if you'll see that in competitive play because it's hard to pull off. One of the things you'd have to do is run AD mid, which is that's something different that you'd have to practice a lot.
Yeah, you were mentioning Urgot would actually probably see a lot of action in this kind of comp because of his ulti can guarantee ganks in middle, and he's also pretty tanky as well.
Yeah, yeah. Urgot's he's really strong middle. I don't know why he doesn't see play ever anymore. The thing is at level 3 or 4, as soon as he lands his E combo, he's gonna chunk you to half, and you can no longer fight. After he hits you with his E combo, you can't fight him. Like, you'll die the next time it happens, and so you play scared, and Urgot just starts to zone you because the next time he hits you, you're gonna be at like 10%, and it goes back to ranges. You can't hit Urgot back, and he can hit you. That's so important. Uh, because it's basically just like they might as well have just AFK'd and you hit him for free, because that's how it is. If they can't hit you back, you're just blowing them around. And then yeah, level 6, a jungler can just come in and clean up after your ridiculous ulti.
I feel like we've talked about every AD champion except Ezreal, and I know we were talking a little bit earlier. I actually have some thoughts on him and kind of want to discuss him a little bit.
Yeah, okay, so what I think about Ezreal is he's very, very good. Um, okay, well he's not amazing, but he's good. He's viable, just like every AD's pretty good. Uh, the thing is people tend to build how they want to build on Ezreal. So Trinity Force, that's like core to them. Like, you got to build Trinity Force on Ezreal. It's so good, and that's so wrong to me. It's just like I never build Trinity Force on Corki for a reason. It's because it doesn't do damage. You drop 4,000 gold, but do you do the damage of a 4,000 gold Infinity Edge? No, you do. Now you have like utility and all these other things, but you don't play AD carries to have utility. You play AD carries to kill people really fast. Uh, so if I played Ezreal, I play Ezreal a lot recently actually, and I build Infinity Edge, and I build right after Infinity Edge I build Phantom Dancer, and it does incredible damage. And if you look at Ezreal's kit, he's got a permanent 50% attack speed bonus, and he's got that ridiculous W. I don't even want to talk about how stupid his W ability is. Um, and he's got a reposition. He's got a good ulti. Like, what's wrong about Ezreal? The community just perceives him as low damage because they build low damage on him, and I think that's wrong. So I don't know. You might see him a lot more now. I know QtPie played him against us recently in the Chris Invitational, and he did really well with Ezreal.
Yeah, not to mention that the community, I mean, no offense to everyone in the community, but it's kind of lazy in a sense of experimenting with stuff on their own and kind of, even if they do and something bad happens in one game, they don't like brush it off and like, oh, I'll try something else this game, against someone else. And the community kind of has a perception of Ezreal just being like a poke champion, just by queuing all day onto him and not really. I'm assuming that's
Yeah.
why they build Trinity Force. They're not really trying to stay in a fight and do a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's it. That's basically, they stuck with the back in the day when AD carries were solo lanes. They stuck with, well, Trinity Force is really good on Ezreal, and nobody ever got out of that. Basically, there's no reason why you can't build Infinity Edge on Ezreal. Like, I can't think of a single reason why you can't do that. And the thing is now Ezreal is your AD carry. He'll go into a fight and he'll 3-shot tanks, and that's really scary because Ezreal's all of his other things that he does is amazing too. He gives your team a recurve bow. He gives your team like a good startup to the team fight, the burst damage. But yeah, so I like Ezreal, but he's also really hard to play. So that's probably why you don't see very much of him.
Right, yeah. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier, where Xerath, you consider him to be one of the top 2 or top 3 AP carries in the game, but just because people don't play him enough and really kind of get used to his style, like they can't really, excel him to the way he should be played.
Yeah, there's almost no, there just is no reason why Xerath shouldn't be played like pretty much every game. He has no counters. He's got an amazing late game. He's got an amazing early game. At level 6, he'll just 100-0 you if you don't play safe enough. And he's just so good. But like, who can play him? I only know 2 people, Chauster and SYDTKO from Curse. Those are the only 2 players in North America I know who can play Xerath. That's amazing because he's just so good, but he's so hard to play. So I think that's the reason.
I want to go a little bit back towards the early game. What's your favorite support to kind of have? Like, who do you kind of, in terms of, most played supports and in terms of, like, uncommon supports?
Ooh, it depends on, are we talking solo queue? Because in solo queue, I'd have freaking face roll, Soraka, or Sona every game.
Either one works, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, solo queue definitely just give me a really easy Soraka, Sona. Those are, yeah. But in competitive play, I really like how Leona plays out in lane, and just plays out in team fights. So I feel like, uh, yeah, my top three would probably be like Leona, Janna, and Alistar because they have such big impact on team fights. And like, what's 10 CS gonna do in lane for you when that's like half, that's a fort pot, or like half of a BF sword, or sorry, half of Doran's blade. But like you get into a team fight and like the difference between Soraka and Leona is huge. Leona goes in and tanks, does a billion damage, crowd controls everyone, and then Soraka just sits back and gives you a heal and a silence. That's, I don't know. I like team fighting supports a lot.
Yeah, like what's the point of having the extra 10 CS for half a Doran's blade when you're being CC'd so much in a team fight by these other supports? You can't really get the use out of it.
Yeah, it's not. It's just the trade-off is so not there for, like, people are stuck on basically Sona. But her team fight's good for sure, and her laning phase is good overall. She's got a really good all around. But picking Sona every game is like so wrong. There's supports that do way more than her in team fights.
Right. And we have one last question from the community, and this kind of relates to what we're just talking about. Is from Starwolf from Reddit. He asks, "What 80 carry do you feel brings the most to team fights?"
Uh, wow. Probably Ashe, I'd say, brings the most to. If this game was only played 5 versus 5, she would do the most. Uh, she gives you an engage, and she gives you an AoE slow, and that's so, the engage part is so important. Uh, that's that's something that no AD has. Only Ashe has this ability that magically just starts the team fight whenever you want. Like, the thing is if you're if you have the choice of when to fight or not, you'll only basically pick fights that you're gonna win. And so if you're in a good position and Ashe just shoots off an arrow, in a perfect world, if like God was playing Ashe, then you would never lose the team fight. You just would never lose the team fight because Ashe knows, your team knows, okay, if you shoot an arrow right here and now, we're gonna win the team fight. And so that's really important. And then number two is the AoE slow is just really, really annoying. I don't know how many people play like melees with limited gap closers against Ashe, but you don't move. Like, during the entire team fight, you've probably moved like 2 feet before you died. So I think she brings the most. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely kind of agree with that. We kind of saw, or she's the only AD carry that can kind of even disengage a fight like Janna can do. If you have a bad team fight, you can just stun and try to hopefully get away.
Yeah.
And I just forgot what I was gonna say. But have you? Okay, so this replay is actually before Nautilus came out. This is actually in early February. Have you had any chance to see him as a support yet, or as a jungler? Like, just really quick, like, what's your views on him?
Ooh, Nautilus. I think he's better played as a jungler than a support. I feel like there's a lot of you have to break down supports by their abilities and just think about what brings utility. So Janna is the perfect example. All four of her abilities are utility. She's got CC, shield plus damage plus CC and heal. Like, everything about her is great. And then you look at Nautilus and he's like, well, you have a hook and like this shield thing, I guess, that makes you kind of tanky. And I don't see why you would pick him as a support over, let's say, like Alistar, where all four of his abilities are like just great support. They don't scale, but they do the job. They just get the job done. And yeah, I don't really see him. He's no sustain. He's low damage. All he is crowd control, and his crowd control isn't as good as Alistar, or like we recently ran support Galio, and it's like you get a 5-man ulti on support Galio, and the game's over. No support can taunt 5 people at one time. Only Galio.
Well, Teemo can.
Oh yeah, the global taunt.
I was actually I was asking that question to kind of segue into this. Is you were very known for your Blitzcrank, and I believe you're Poppy, correct?
Oh yeah, that was
And
season. Yeah.
and Nautilus is he's kind of like a little Blitzcrank, and I was curious to see if you've had any like solo lane like time with him, or any like potentially playing support as him, like you used to do with Blitzcrank?
Oh man, back in the day, I played Blitz as okay. This was basically how every game went. Bottom lane was two Briz back way back then. Early season one was bottom lane was two Brizzers and they shared farm, and then the solo lanes were AP and AD carry. So your typical team comp was you have three Bruisers, your jungle and your bottom lane, and then you have your two carries. And it was like the perfect, you know, you have these three Bruisers that tank for these two really high level, high damage carries, and then they broke it. They just screwed it up. And now it's all about sustain bottom lane with these AD carries, and it's just if Blitzcrank is viable anywhere, I'd say it's as a support. Don't yeah, just as a support. He's only mediocre as a jungler and as a top lane. So I played a lot of support Blitzcrank recently, and his problem is that he doesn't really do anything in lane. So like you're just sitting in the bush, and like a good player won't get hooked, and so it's your AD carry is 2v1ing now. So because Blitz doesn't do anything, but then you get to mid late game, and he's got like the X factor where if you land a hook, you win. You just win the game right there. You hook their AD carry, you hook their AP carry, and now it's a 4v5. You're just gonna win, and that's like high risk, high reward play. That's not like high risk, high reward is not something that you see in competitive play very much. It's most like play it safe. You know, why pick Blitz when you can just pick Alistar? So that's the mentality there. But I think he's viable. I think he's viable.
And actually, I've been seeing a lot of stuff like where Poppy's being played top a lot more. I don't know if you've tried that yet or anything.
Yeah, I don't actually know how people get away with Poppy Top. She loses to so many champions. But there's nothing more scary than a 6-item Poppy. There's nothing more scary. You're gonna die. If you're the carry and there's a Poppy on the enemy team, you're gonna die. It doesn't matter where you are, like how tanky you are, like what you built. You're just gonna die. And so Poppy's just that kind of assassin. So if you compare her to any other assassin, Talon, Akali, you can CC them and you can kill them as they try to jump in. But Poppy's different. So if
Poppy's
you
a honey
can get
badger. She just doesn't give a
yeah,
shit.
she just doesn't care, dude. So she'll just walk in and kill you, and there's nothing you can do if she can get past her really bad lane. So I've actually looked at the high little Poppy players. There's this one guy Spam Happy who only plays Poppy, and it's interesting. I don't know how he gets away with it. So any top lane, Aurelia, Tryndamere, Gangplank, they all poop on Poppy. She can't do anything. She just dies or she gets 0 farm, and I don't know. I think it's only something that could happen in solo queue, because I don't see her being good as a top lane.
Right. Well, that is the end of the episode. I want to thank Doublelift for being here and give you the chance to give any shout outs or to talk about any of the stuff you are actually working on or do.
Oh yeah. I just shout out to CLG sponsors, Razer and On TV. They're really good, and I have a Facebook, facebook.com/CLG Doublelift, and I just want to thank my stream viewers and everyone who supported me. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, you should definitely watch a stream. Just really funny stuff in general goes down. If anything, you might see some yelling between save issues and stuff. I know I've
Oh,
seen
that
that once,
happens every time.
and it's hilarious to watch. All right, well that is it for Ult In Ten, and see you guys next time.